Hey everybody, we have Joe, the solutions engineer from Thirdweb, and I'm Beata. I'm a DevRel at Trick Tech, and I work closely with Etherlink. And today we're talking about the engine side of things. So if you missed the last episode, last actually two episodes, we were talking about Wallet Connect, and yes. Now we talked about a little bit of front end. Naturally, we're jumping to the backend side. So Joe, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Beta. Again, for everyone who is joining us mid-series, I'm Joe. I'm a solutions engineer here at Thirdweb, and today we're talking about backend. As Beta mentioned, we already went through our front-end components. After you have people log in and able to connect their wallets or accounts into your app, you're gonna naturally need a way to trigger some transactions. Maybe through a backend component, right? Maybe automatically if you want to set up some things like cron jobs or some webhooks that kick off transactions. And so one of the easiest ways to do it is through something we call Thirdweb Engine. It is already supported on Etherlink, of course. And so we're going to go through a little bit today on what it is, how you can utilize it, and we're actually going to set up an engine instance so that live here so that we can see how quick it is and how easy it is to start working with our new engine cloud is what we call it. This is our V3 of engine. So I'm going to share my screen as always here. Screen share, go through a quick little slide information on what engine is. What is engine, right? This cool name, engine. Yeah. This especially if you're into cars and Mad Max, right? The engine. This is going to be what powers your backend for when we think in terms of blockchain transactions and how we kick it off in the backend of your instance. So anytime you're developing and you think, oh, how do I do something in the backend? It's engine, right? So anytime you think of the phrase backend, think of engine. And so what does it mean, right? What is engine? How does it help? It is the ability to scale your application to millions through our blockchain API. So engine uses a whole bunch of different API endpoints that you guys are probably familiar with working with. So if you are familiar with the HTTP fetch requests, guess what? You're already a premier engine developer. You have been using it your entire career as long as you know these HTTP endpoints, right? Really, really cool to think about and a skill set to have already developed. So congratulations, you're already an engine engineer. Yeah. And so what are some of the things it can do? So it can do things like gas sponsorship. We've talked a little bit about AA and gas sponsoring through our front end, but guess what? You can do it on the back end too. So if you ever wanted to sponsor gas on behalf of your users through something we call server wallets, you can do so. You can also use some relayers through Engine as a source of gas sponsorship. So when we think about the very first session we did here on the overview on what is Thirdweb, and we talked about the full stack developer toolkit. This is just another way in which we showcase that. So many different options in which you can get you sponsor gas on behalf of your users. We don't lock you in into any which way. We want to make sure that you guys have the tooling to make any sort of project with any sort of architecture that you have available to you. So again, engine, you have the opportunity to sponsor gas. You can also do things like do blockchain data, right? So we have end-to-end encrypted enclave wallets, and these wallets have access to a whole bunch of different functions. One of them being sign transactions on behalf of users. Again, you can also do things like kicking off transactions, right? So if you can say, for example, user comes into your app, they want to mint an NFT. Usually they'd click a button, they'd confirm the transaction either in their EOA, or if you're using in-app wallets, it's under the hood. You can actually have it to where, hey, they click a button, Engine performs that mint instead of the user, and then sends it to your user's wallet. So now your user doesn't even have to interact with your transaction, right? Which means you've cut out a step and you've made that experience so much smoother for your user, right? They can click a button and start moving on to the next step. They can click a, instead of having to click a button, wait, okay, there's my transaction pop up. Okay, there I've confirmed it. Okay, there's the mint, right? You've cut out all those steps where now through engine they click a button, transactions kicked off on the back end, and the user doesn't have to wait. They can just go on to the next step and the next flow in your application. Really, really speeds up user experience here. And this is something that can work with both on-chain transactions as well as off-chain flows. We provide a host of webhooks and kind of data feedback that you guys can use to trigger off-chain transactions. Really useful for things like if you're doing Shopify integrations, Zapier integrations, right? Maybe a user comes in, does some on-chain activity, you recognize it through Engine, and then you say, okay, hey, I got my webhook that it was confirmed on-chain. Let me now kick off my backend, my off-chain backend rather, right? So maybe I want to do things like send a physical piece of mail. Maybe I want to start a shipping label, right? Where I'm sending a piece of merch to a user, or maybe I'm just want to update some database that I have access to, right? User has reached their 100th transaction on chain. Let me update my off chain database that hey, we now have an additional user who has done 100 transactions on our app. Stuff like that. Really simple, really clean use cases here for you all. And so again, with that, I mentioned a little bit about the ability to get some data, and that includes things into your transaction data. So not only can you get the result of a transaction, but you can see the health of your transaction. So you can see, hey, is it stuck? Did it fail? Right. And you can set up alerting for this kind of stuff. You can set up alerting for nonce management and a whole host of other situations and scenarios that can help you stay on top of these transactions. At the end of the day, if you're familiar with Web3, you know that wallets are sequential and a lot of things can go wrong. You can get stuck. You can run out of gas. You can get stuck on your nonce, right? Maybe it gets out of order with what the chain is expecting. And so Engine will actually handle all of these things automatically for you. In the normal world, in without Engine, right? You would have to handle this manually. So you'll have to manually. Everyone's probably done this. You go into your wallet, you change your gas settings, you try and increase it so you can get it confirmed on chain faster, right? It sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you wait there and you're like, what's happening? And so Engine cuts all this out, right? So this happens automatically through our server wallets, and you don't have to worry about any of that anymore. Really, really helpful in terms of that. So try it out, right? Again, at the end of all these sessions, towards the end, you know that I like to show a little bit of a hands-on experience. And so today we're going to go through Engine Cloud. And so I'm going to stop sharing this version and I'm going to share my new tab here. I'm going to show you just how quick and easy it is to create your Engine Cloud instance through Thirdweb. So this is our dashboard, right? You go to thirdweb.com, you log in, and you are in your project section. You create a project. You have this Engine instance, right? Really, really simple, really flow. Now, there's been this shift in Engine in where we used to do really kind of very gated engine access. So you have to come up and through these new plans. You have to set up a new engine instance with a new URL. You have to do a whole bunch of configuration settings and who can call it, all this stuff. Now with Engine Cloud or V3, you have it automatically on any plan that you're on. It's no longer gated behind a $99 plan. You guys can use it on any plan that you want. So you guys can start messing around with it. And we have this concept of vaults. So any wallet in your engine, any server wallet that you use, your engine instance itself are now end-to-end non-custodial with the ability for you all to export your keys, export your admin keys, your vault keys, in which we'll go through a little bit here. And it just makes it all in all a better experience. So how do I set up an engine, right? You see this instance, we're going to set up this engine. We're going to create this Vault admin account. And so as you can see here, we're going to have things like, hey, we have a Vault admin key here, which I will copy and put into a notepad. That way we can use it for later. And then we also have the ability for downloading these keys, right? You want to make sure that you secure these in your system. So I'll go ahead and download it here and I'll say, hey, I confirm that I've saved it, and so I can go ahead and close this screen. And now I'm going to create our server wallets. Remember, server wallets are how we interact with Engine. Engine has its own wallet. It has its own ability to kick off transactions, and that is going to be through these server wallets. So go ahead, create server wallet. I'm just going to call this the Etherlink Joe Test Wallet. And so you can create multiple server wallets. And so through that, I've now created my server wallet. This access token is going to be how you utilize the endpoints for it. And so here, hey, maybe I don't want base. Maybe I want Etherlink, right? Maybe for some reason today I've decided I want Etherlink. So I'm going to go ahead and do Etherlink as well. And I'm going to send some transactions here. So through this, I can actually say send transaction and it's going to test. So I've actually queued up a transaction here on Etherlink testnet. Really, really cool. And I can actually just say, oops, I hit complete, but we get some cool transaction like dashboard stuff here. But what I want to do is I'm actually going to be able to send more transactions, right? So I can test it, I can spam it and send these transactions over and over. These have things with QIDs. These have your chain, the status that it comes from. Transaction has once it's absolutely mined, and you're good to go on that. So a couple different things, right? Again, as I mentioned, all of this is HTTP based. So you can look at our endpoints. You can see exactly how to bring this in. So for example, let's say I wanted to first off use my regular TypeScript SDK. I can do that, right? I can create my transactions normally, and to send it to Engine, all I have to do is do this kind of engine dot form here to send it over, depending on my SDK function. Now, if I want to do it through HTTP requests, like I mentioned, you guys who are HTTP API aficionados, you guys are already engine developers. So if I were to come in here, let's say I want to write to a specific contract. Let's say, hey, I know a lot of us use Next.js, right? We use Node. So I'm just going to do fetch here. We have our kind of URL snippet, right? Our request snippet here. So what do you need for it, right? We have things like, hey, what's the endpoint? Simple. It's just this engine.thirdweb.com, right? Dot write to a contract endpoint. And what are some of the things you need for it? This is all in the body. So you can do things like, hey, what's the contract address I'm working on? What's the method I want to write? Right? What are the parameters for that method? And then finally, some execution information. So, hey, what chain am I working on? And who do I want this transaction to originate from? Maybe it's your backend wallet. Maybe it's your user's address, right? You have the opportunity to customize that completely. And so you can go here, look through some of our endpoints that we are adding to every single day for Engine. And again, this makes it really simple for anyone to be a Web3 dev. You don't have to know SDK language. You don't have to know things like setting up a transaction in terms of gas signatures, right? You simply use these endpoints, call them through your engine instance, and you're transacting on blockchain. You're a blockchain dev. I think that's one of the most powerful things here is that if you know how to work with these endpoints, then you're a blockchain dev. It's full stop, right? Makes it really easy for people from Web2 to come over to Web3. And so that's Engine. That's a little bit about how it works and how you can use it to kickstart your back end development in Web3.
This is brilliant. It reminds me my Web 2 days, and I'm kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We see a lot of people who are just getting started, right? Use Engine with HTTP APIs, and I can't say enough how quick it is to get up and running with Web3 development through Engine. And so, if you are looking at our SDKs and you go, oh, you know what, you don't have a Python SDK, just use Engine, right? Python allows for endpoint calls, and you can just use Engine. And guess what? Now you have your entire blockchain suite, which is really, really, really great.
It is indeed. Great stuff. So I think we can tease the next episode, which would be.
Yeah. So, okay. So, next one, I'm going to do Insight only because I think it's a great precursor to Nebula, which you can kind of see the banner here, right? Our AI agent. So, next, we've talked about our front end, we've talked about our back end. And so, Insight is going to be all about getting data and reading and querying on chain. So we'll do Insight for this next session, so that way you guys can start utilizing the data you see on chain and making components with it, making data decisions based off that. So Insight is going to be our next one.
And next after Insight is gonna be Nebula.
The Nebula, exactly.
Ooh,
The AI
super
agent. I love it.
exciting. All right, see you next episode, Joe.
Cool. Yep. See you there.
Bye.